Hello and welcome to Cosmic Cassie. This is going to be another podcast. Today we are going to be talking about shadow work. Tune in every Thursday to watch the podcast on YouTube as well as on Instagram. You might get a clip, something like that, as well as on the websites. Down below in the right corner, you can see my email address if you ever have a topic that you want to discuss or talk about. So let's go ahead and get started on shadow work. So, one of the main things that I wanted to discuss with shadow work is a common misconception that I get all the time, even in the readings that I have with like personal clients. This is a topic that I always have to talk about and go over. And so, I thought it would be a really good idea to share this with everyone. That way, you all kind of have a better understanding of what shadow work really is. It's something we've all heard of, as well as like dark night of the soul, ego death. Those are often associated with shadow work. But what I want to discuss is, first off, the main reason why we do shadow work. Second off, a different perception on what shadow work actually is, because I think that's a common misconception of what it actually is. So, when I'm talking about what is the reason we actually do shadow work, well, the first part is going to be for growth. That's the main reason we do almost anything, especially in the spiritual realm, with our own spirituality, religion, things like this. It's all for the purpose of growth, our own integration of self, the ability to kind of move forward from where we're at to somewhere that we maybe don't know where it's at, but something we want to achieve. And shadow work is an amazing way to do this, because what you're looking at is the things that hold you back, the pieces of yourself. But that's the thing, is it's very internal. Nothing about shadow work is going to be external. It's looking at yourself, looking at your own habits, looking at the things that, create triggers for you, looking at the reasons why, you have a difficult time with maybe communicating or relationships, or even with your own self-image. It goes very inside of yourself and gives you a different perspective on, why am I doing these things? Why am I reacting in this way? And instead of blaming the outside world, you're looking very internally. One of the main methods that I think a lot of people use for shadow work is going to be mirroring. And the idea with mirroring is that when you are interacting with everything in your external world, you're seeing a reflection immediately of who you are and how you are. And that includes those triggers. So if you're going to the grocery store and you're getting really impatient because the person in front of you is talking to the clerk, and you're like, I want to get in, I want to get out, and I'm sitting here waiting, and this person is just talking, and it's really triggering you and it's getting you really upset and frustrated, instead of looking at that situation as an external situation that's happening that is then creating a reaction of you being impatient. Mirroring means I'm being triggered by this because it's showing me a reflection of myself. And typically, it's a reflection of the thing that I don't admire, appreciate, allow within myself, that I don't accept. And so when you look deeper into that, you start to ask, well, why is this upsetting me? Is it really because I'm in a rush, or is it because of a different reason? And it starts to feel like, wow, they're not valuing my time by talking. Okay, well, why should they value your time? They don't know you, they don't know anything about you. So why are we interpreting it as someone who is not valuing our time? And then you go deeper down that tunnel. And what it reveals could be something as simple as, I always feel like no one values my time and how I show up, and I don't feel valued in my daily life and interactions with other people. And the reason for this is because I don't get back what I'm feeling I should get back. There's not an equal exchange of energy or communication, and so it triggers me when people do things that might make me feel like they don't value my time and who I am. So that's one way of doing that, is mirror work. Okay. Mirroring. You can look it up, and a lot of people will have different ways of combating this and going at it, but it's truly a challenge. It is, but it's deeply rewarding when you figure out how to do it at the same time. So now that we've kind of discussed a little bit about what's the purpose of shadow work, I want to get into the main juicy topic here, which is the misperception that we have when it comes to shadow work. So one of these things that I find often is shadow work is believed to be one of those things that you're supposed to find the itty bitty gritty parts of yourself and then extract them out because they're not good. Or, shadow work is meant to be, let's discover the pieces of who I hate myself to be. And because I've discovered it, that is the shadow work. And there's healing that needs to happen there. So a lot of that is not going to be a fully thought out realization of what shadow work is. The way that I describe this is shadow work is truly finding the acceptance of self. It's integrating your whole being and self into an acceptance space, because we always look at things black and white. It's human nature to see dark and light, to see bad and good. There's always a spectrum, and we always find ourselves on either side of that spectrum. So one of the things with shadow work is removing the idea that it has to be black or white, that it has to be right and wrong, that it has to be evil and light. And it's realizing that there's a coherence when you have balance, when you find the ability to accept both sides of that spectrum and not just fall onto one side. And it's also understanding that we ourselves as individuals, we are the spectrum. We don't fall on either or. We just are the whole spectrum. We have dark, we have light, we have evil, we have goodness. But the thing is that we create what we believe evil and goodness to be. There's really not a yes or no. We're always in an area of maybe, but we create what yes is, what no is, what evil is, what dark is, through our own experiences, through our own perception. So one of the most valuable things that you can get from shadow work is being able to integrate your whole self into a space of acceptance. And this is something really difficult to do, because you immediately have to figure out what are those pieces of me that I deem as dark and negative that I don't allow? What are those things that I look at and I feel and think that I shouldn't be this way, and this is not okay for me to do, and I shouldn't act this way, and I shouldn't look this way or feel this way? It's those pieces of ourselves that we actually take and we view them, but we destroy them at the same time every time we see them. So it's really important to make sure that when we do that shadow work, we're not just finding those bits and pieces and then destroying them, but we're allowing ourselves to realize that we are duality at its best. We are the epitome of light and dark, but we define what we see as darkness. So if you have a bad habit or a poor mindset, something that is not meant to necessarily be healed, but acknowledged as a part of who you are, this is something that we want to take into acceptance as a part of ourselves, without the judgment, without looking at it and wanting to pull it and withdraw it and destroy it. And we want to allow it to be a part of the whole being that we are, because we are duality. We are dark and light. Not everything that we don't like about ourselves is something that needs to be healed. Not everything we don't like about ourselves is some kind of trauma that ensued a deep journey of self deep growth and healing. And not everything needs to be healed and released. Some things need to be realized as a part of ourselves, and it's up for you to really decide and determine, is this something that needs to be healed, or is this a piece of who I am? Is this a part of my personality, a part of just me being a person, having faults, having these pieces of myself that maybe I don't like, and then learning to love them? Because there's nothing more progressive that you can do in your own spirituality, in your own life, than getting to a space where you accept the pieces of you that you don't like. And instead of not liking them, you learn to love them and you learn to be coherent with them. And so you're not you're not always in a space of feeling the duality is what's destroying you. You come to a space of being able to balance the duality and understand that I don't have to fight with myself, because I'm a whole realized being. That is the epitome of enlightenment, is becoming a realized being. And the way you do that is by learning to accept every piece of yourself, the dark and the light, regardless of how you define them. Your darkness may be defined as someone else's light. So that's how we look at shadow work, and that's the best way to tackle it and the most successful way to get through it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye.